So with this script, we are going to web scrape NFL injuries. And I wanted to try and retrieve historical NFL injuries beginning all the way from 2010 and up to the current date, but that was just not possible with the websites I was working with because they only have injuries for the current season. When the new season begin, the old injuries that occurred are deleted from the website and no longer retrievable. And I'm guessing they have it somewhere in the database back there, especially the NFL.com website or the NFL organization. They probably have a huge database with a list of all the players and the injuries that have occurred to them. But in our case, we only have injuries for the current season, and I'm hoping to build upon our injuries table. So we're starting from year one. Then year two, we build up on more and more injuries. And then it'll eventually lead to us having like a whole injury table where we have injuries from players who just came into the league to players who have been playing for a while. But that's going to take some time. So the website we are going to look at is CBS Sports, and they have a pretty good website again, and we have scraped from this website in previous scripts. So with this particular web page, we have the team, the player name, the position, the type of injury or where the injury occurred, and the injury status. So let's get back onto the script. So of course we set up the environment, load in our packages and libraries, and then we go through the same process of reading the web page and then using an HTML parser. And we've seen all of this before, and we could immediately move on to this short script. It's a pretty short script. So now we set up several variables, and we create a empty data frame, and then we have our account and then our total, of course. And this script is going to be very similar to the last script that we've seen with the CBS Sports website. The CBS Sports website follows very similar formats when it comes to one sport and like looking at different things. So we looked at the games, now we're looking at the injury list, and how they format it is very similar between the two. So it's not going to be very hard to scrape this. So I don't think there's really much to explain here, just making sure that for the amount of players in a given date, we want to retrieve all of the injuries. And once we have completed that, we are going to retrieve the text like the player name, the injury, why or where they got injured at, and the reason for the injury. And also the team name and when the injury occurred or when was it recorded. So this is what we're doing here, and then once that is done, we are going to create a staging data frame and then create our columns within that data frame and then assign the variables to those columns. And then we add 1 to total, 1 to I, 2 to O, 5 to G, 5 to V, and 5 to X. And then we also add 1 to count as well. And then we append it to the data frame on the outside. And then also I have a print statement here, just printing the player names. And I usually like having print statements in there because it's like a visual representation of like where the script is at or if the script is working correctly. So now if the count is equal to the amount of players in the list, then we are going to reset the count back to 0, add 1 to the variable of f, and then if p is less than the length of the table that we are looking at, then subtract it by 1, then we are going to add 1 to p. This will make p move to the next table within that web page. Once that is done, we convert our date column into the correct format using pandas, and then we export our data frame to a CSV file, and this is going to be used in our database daily, and it is one of the scripts that I have running daily on a task scheduler. So you can see players on the injury list, and this is what our data frame looks like. So we have the date, of course, the team name, the position, the player, the injury status, the reason, and the team logo. And that's pretty much it for this script. There's nothing really else to talk about here, and we can move on to the next data set now.